The motion sensor's shrill beep shattered the fragile silence of dawn. Ewan Barnes snapped awake on his cot, breath quick, body already coiled tight like a spring. 3 years alone at Outpost Dune had burned the habit of light sleeping into him. His pulse rifle rested beside his bed, and in one smooth movement he had it pressed against his shoulder, eyes narrowed at the glowing alert on the cracked wall console. Proximity alert. Sector 7, the Outpost AI said in its flat, lifeless tone. Ewan swung his legs over the edge of the cot, calloused feet hitting the cold steel floor. His blonde hair was damp with sweat. Even before sunrise, the desert heat pressed like a hand on his chest. He rubbed a tired hand down his face, muttering under his breath. Could be a worm, could be raiders, or just rocks. But deep down, he knew better. Show me. The console flickered, static breaking the hologram before the image resolved. Heat signatures, too small for the sandworms that prowled the dunes, too large for scavenger animals, moving slow as if dragging. Company. Ewan turned to his only companion in this dust-blasted exile. Phantom, his horse. Not an Earth horse, but a massive six-legged beast bred by colonists centuries ago from alien stock. Scales shimmered blue across his flank, catching even the faintest starlight. His elongated head lifted when Ewan approached, 3 eyes on each side blinking in a strange but comforting sequence. Looks like we've got work, boy. Phantom snorted, pawing the sand-crusted floor of the stable. Minutes later, Ewan was strapping on his gear: canteen, medkit, emergency beacon, spare power cells. His sidearm sat heavy on his hip. He stepped into the biting pre-dawn air, heat and chill mixing strangely in the desert's breath. Phantom knelt just enough for Ewan to mount, muscles rippling under his skin like a living engine. They rode eastward across dunes glowing faint amber under the first hints of dawn. The twin suns of the Cygnes system had not yet risen, but the horizon was already bleeding red. Ewan scanned the sands ahead. He knew every contour of this land, every ridge, every hollow. That was why the shape at the base of the dune struck him like a blow. Not natural. He urged Phantom forward, rifle raised. As they drew closer, the outline became clear. A humanoid figure sprawled across the desert floor. Ewan dismounted cautiously, rifle trained. Phantom snorted, uneasy tail lashing. The figure was a woman. Skin green like polished emerald, silver-white hair tangled with sand. She wore battle-torn armor and desert garb, blood dried across her thigh where a gash had crusted into an ugly mess. Verdani. Ewan's jaw tightened. The Verdani were raiders, predators, ruthless hunters who'd bled human outposts dry. He should have walked away. Instead, he knelt. Her chest rose, faint but steady, alive. Hey, he said softly, brushing sand from her shoulder. Can you hear me? Her violet eyes snapped open. Vertical pupils contracted sharply in the growing light. With a hiss, she tried to scramble back, but her injured leg gave way. She reached for a blade that wasn't there. Whoa, easy. Ewan raised both hands, rifle slung back. I'm not going to hurt you. She spat something in her language, guttural and sharp, then switched to broken standard. Human, why here? I picked up your signal, you're hurt. He gestured to her thigh. Let me help. Her gaze darted from him to Phantom, wary and confused. Why help, enemy? Ewan shrugged, pulling his medkit from his pack. Who said you're my enemy? Besides, I don't leave people to die in the desert. Her jaw tightened. Suspicion battled with pain in her eyes. She didn't stop him when he poured antiseptic over the wound. The liquid hissed in the cut, but she didn't flinch. What's your name? Ewan asked as he wrapped the wound. A pause, then quietly, Licka. I'm Ewan. Silence fell between them, filled only by the whisper of wind across the sand. When he tried to help her up, she stumbled, unable to bear weight. Phantom snorted again, stamping the sand. Ewan looked between the horse and the woman, feeling the weight of the decision settle on him. Damn it. Take my horse, he said finally. Licka's eyes widened. Your mount, why? Because you can't walk and I can. He guided her to Phantom. The beast bent down reluctantly, but obeyed when Ewan pressed his palm to its flank. Ewan lifted her onto the saddle, showing her how to grip the neural reins. He'll follow me home, no arguments. Phantom turned westward, carrying the alien woman away. Ewan watched them disappear into the rising suns, then started walking, each step heavier than the last. By the time he reached the outpost, sweat soaked his shirt. Phantom stood waiting, reins loose. No sign of Lika. Ewan's hand went to his sidearm as he pushed open the door. Inside, she sat at his table, wound freshly cleaned, his supplies neatly organized beside her. Her violet eyes locked on him, still wary, but different now, curious. "You came back," she said simply. "It's my home," he replied, forcing a smile. "Where else would I go?" They ate in silence. She revealed little about herself, only that she was separated from her unit. Her accent was thick, her words halting, but she accepted his food without complaint. That night, Ewan stood outside as the desert cooled, stars scattering the black sky like shattered glass. Phantom nudged his shoulder, warm breath in the chill air. Ewan stroked the beast's muzzle absently. "What do you think, boy? Did I just make the dumbest choice of my life?" Phantom said nothing, but the unease in Ewan's chest grew heavier. He squinted toward the horizon, a flicker of movement, there and gone again. The hair on the back of his neck prickled. By dawn, he knew why. Figures emerged from the mist of morning. 7 of them, slender, tall, green-skinned like Lika, moving with predatory grace. Their silver-white hair gleamed in the light of the twin suns. Weapons glinted in their hands, blades, bows, strange devices humming with power. Ewan's breath caught in his throat. "We've got company," he muttered. Behind him, the outpost door creaked. Lika stood in the frame, leaning against it, still weak on her leg. Her eyes widened at the sight of the figures approaching. "My sisters," she whispered. 7 figures advanced across the dunes. They moved like predators, fluid, coordinated, every step deliberate. Their emerald skin caught the dawn light, their long white hair whipped by the rising winds. Each one carried weapons that gleamed with alien menace. Curved energy-forged blades, compact bows that hummed with vibrating strings, and strange devices strapped to their wrists that pulsed with violet energy. Ewan's mouth went dry. Lika steadied herself on the doorframe, leaning heavily on her injured leg. "My sisters," she said again, but her voice carried unease. Relief and fear tangled in her tone. "Friends of yours, I take it," Ewan muttered, hand resting on his sidearm. Lika shook her head, biting her lip. "Not friends, hunters, my hunting party." "Great," Ewan positioned himself in front of her instinctively. "And what exactly do hunters do when they find a human alone in the desert?" Her violet eyes met his, heavy with unspoken truth. "Depends on the human." The sisters crested the final dune and stopped in perfect formation, weapons angled low but ready. Their leader stepped forward, a tall woman with intricate silver markings painted across her skin, markings that seemed to glow faintly in the rising suns. Her eyes, a deeper shade of violet than Lika's, fixed on Ewan with sharp intensity. "You have something that belongs to us, human," she said, her standard flawless but cold. Ewan kept his rifle lowered but did not back down. "She was dying, I helped her." The leader tilted her head, studying him with the curiosity of a scientist inspecting an unusual specimen. "You gave her food, water, medicine." Her gaze flicked to Phantom. "And your mount." "Yeah," Ewan said tightly, "because she couldn't walk." A ripple moved through the sisters. Not anger, something else. Surprise, interest. The leader's lips curved into the faintest suggestion of a smile. "Curious behavior. It is said humans leave their enemies to rot in the sand." Ewan shrugged. "Guess you've been talking to the wrong humans." Behind him, Lika took a cautious step forward. "Naira," she said, her voice carrying a strange mix of deference and defiance. "He saved my life. I would have died without him." Naira's eyes narrowed, then shifted back to Ewan. Her gaze was piercing, calculating, almost weighing him. "So I see." Lika's hand came to rest lightly on Ewan's shoulder. The touch startled him, warmth flooding through his skin despite the cool morning air. "Our ways are clear," she told her sisters firmly. "A life saved creates a blood debt. Until it is repaid, I am bound to him." The other Verdani shifted, their postures changing subtly. Less hostile, more curious. Ewan frowned. "Blood debt." "It is our law," Naira said. Her voice was like silk wrapped around steel. "You have not only saved her life, human, you gave her your mount, your companion. Such a gift is unprecedented." "Unprecedented good or unprecedented stupid?" Ewan asked dryly. A few of the sisters laughed, low and melodic, though their eyes never left him. "You intrigue us," Naira said. "Perhaps the stories of human selfishness are incomplete." I'm touched, Ewan muttered. Another sister stepped forward. Her hair was braided with small metallic beads that clinked softly as she moved. We have heard of human compassion. Few believed it true. Humans take what they want, another added, her tone blunt but not unkind. They expand, they consume, they do not give. Ewan's jaw tightened. Some of us are like that, some aren't, same as any species, I'd imagine. The sisters regarded him with something close to fascination now. He could feel their eyes like heat against his skin, their attention sharper than any blade. Finally, Naira spoke again. The sisterhood acknowledges the debt. Until it is repaid, we remain. Ewan blinked. Remain, you mean here? Naira's smile widened slightly. Where else? If liquor is bound to you, then we are bound as well. Such is our law. My outpost isn't exactly built for 8 people, Ewan said, trying to mask the rising tension in his chest. We require little space, Naira replied smoothly, and we can be accommodating. There was something in the way she said it that made Ewan's pulse quicken for reasons he didn't care to examine too closely. Behind him, Lika's hand slid from his shoulder to his arm, lingering there. They approve of you, she murmured. Ewan swallowed. Lucky me. By midday, the Verdani had transformed his outpost. They moved like a single organism, silent and efficient, establishing a perimeter, repairing small breaches in his shielding grid, even reorganizing his storage compartments with unnerving precision. They touched little without purpose, but their presence filled every corner of the space. Ewan felt outnumbered, outmatched, yet strangely not unsafe. At least not until the alarm blared. The outpost AI's voice was calm, but the words chilled him. Atmospheric disturbance detected. Category 5 sandstorm approaching from the southeast. Estimated impact 43 minutes. Ewan cursed under his breath. Naira appeared at his side instantly. How severe? The worst kind, Ewan replied, already moving to secure equipment. These storms strip flesh from bone. If we're caught outside, we don't stand a chance. The sisters moved in unison, breaking down their camp and carrying supplies inside with military precision. Phantom was led into the reinforced stable. 38 minutes to impact, the AI droned. Inside, the space grew stifling. 8 bodies in a place built for one. The walls vibrated faintly as the first winds licked across the shield. The lighting dimmed as emergency protocols shifted power. How long will it last? One sister asked. 3 days, maybe more. Ewan tried to focus on the consoles, but he could feel their eyes on him. All 7 sisters, their violet gazes sharp and hungry. Lika touched his arm again. Will the barriers hold? They should, Ewan said. I've weathered worse. Naira leaned closer, her tone low, her eyes unblinking. 3 days in close quarters. There was something in her voice that made Ewan glance around. Every sister was watching him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Not fear, but something more primal. Is there something I should know? He asked cautiously. Lika's hand lingered on him. My sisters and I, we sense emotions, strong ones, yours are loud. Ewan stiffened. You're telepaths. Not thoughts, Naira corrected smoothly. Only feelings, desire, fear, curiosity, yours burn bright. Heat rushed to Ewan's face. Every glance, every flicker of attraction he'd tried to bury, they'd felt it all. That's invasive, he muttered. A sister with crystal-beaded hair laughed softly. Says the man who has broadcasted his longing since we arrived. I didn't know, Ewan snapped, but his voice cracked. We do not judge, Naira said, her voice a purr. In truth, we find it intoxicating. The outpost shuddered as the storm slammed against the shields, rattling the walls like a drum. Impact in 5 minutes, the AI announced. Ewan forced his attention back to the console. We should prepare for confinement, minimal movement, conserve resources. Minimal movement, one of the sisters repeated, her lips curving. There are movements worth making even in a storm. The others closed in subtly, forming a loose circle around him. Lika's hand traced from his arm to his shoulder, her voice soft but pointed. Your emotions are spiking, fear and excitement, both. Definitely both, Ewan admitted, throat dry. Naira stepped closer, brushing her fingers against his cheek. Among our people, intimacy is more than pleasure. It is energy shared, a sacred exchange. Ewan's heart hammered. And what exactly are you suggesting? The sisters exchanged glances. Their laughter was low, musical, cutting through the howl of the storm. The storm rages outside, Naira whispered, her violet eyes gleaming. Shall we create one of our own within? The room darkened as the shield strained. The walls shook. The AI warned of power fluctuations. Outside, the desert screamed. Inside, 7 alien women watched Ewan Barnes with eyes that burned like stars. And he realized with a chill and a thrill that he was prey and prize at the same time. The desert roared. Sand scraped against the energy shields like claws against glass. The walls of Outpost Dune groaned beneath the fury of the storm, a steady vibration thrumming through the floor like a heartbeat. The air inside grew heavy with recycled heat, emergency lights painting everything in amber gloom. Ewan had weathered storms before. He knew the rules, lock the doors, conserve power, wait it out. But he had never done it with 7 alien warriors crowded inside his outpost. They sat with predatory stillness, their weapons stowed but always near. Their violet eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, fixed on him with unsettling focus. He felt their attention like fire against his skin. 3 days, Ewan muttered, packing near the console. We're stuck in here for 3 days. Naira, their leader, tilted her head slightly, her white hair cascading down her back like liquid silver. 3 days of silence or of discovery. Which will it be, human? Ewan frowned, discovery. Her lips curved in a faint smile. You felt it already, did you not? The pull between us. My sisters sense it too. Your emotions sing in this space like thunder, raw, unfiltered. I didn't exactly consent to sharing my emotions with you, Ewan said, trying to sound steady. One of the sisters laughed, a light musical sound that made his pulse skip. And yet you gave freely already. Food, medicine, your mount, your trust. Is that not deeper than emotion? Ewan swallowed, his jaw tightening. He wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Compassion was his weakness. His strength too, maybe, but out here it felt like a liability. He remembered Elena, his late wife. She had always said his heart was too soft for war, too stubborn for peace. And now here he was, trapped with 7 women who could read that softness like an open book. Lika, the wounded one, limped forward. Her violet eyes softened as she looked at him. Your kindness binds me. I owe you, my sisters owe you. That bond cannot be denied. She placed her hand against his chest. Heat spread outward from the touch, seeping deep into his bones. Ewan stepped back, rattled. Look, I don't know what you're expecting. Naira cut him off. We expect nothing, but understand among our kind, gratitude is not words, it is shared, felt, lived. Her words hung heavy in the amber-lit room. The storm outside howled louder, rattling the ceiling plates. The AI announced power fluctuations, recommending reduced activity. Ewan rubbed the back of his neck. Great, power's gonna flicker. 8 of us jammed in here and the air's already running hot. You fear confinement, another sister said, watching him closely. I don't fear it, Ewan snapped. I just don't like it. Their laughter rolled through the room, not mocking but strangely warm. The hours stretched. They shared rations, their food strange but surprisingly compatible with his. They told fragments of stories in their own tongue, voices rising and falling like music. He understood little, but their expressions told him enough, losses, hunts, victories. Sometimes they fell silent, their eyes drifting to him again, always watching, always sensing. By the second night, the storm showed no sign of breaking. The shields strained, the air recycled into a stifling haze. Ewan lay awake on his cot, Phantom's quiet snorts carrying through the stable wall. His mind churned, replaying the sisters' words, their touches, the way they moved around him like predators circling prey. A soft sound drew his attention. Lika stood near the cot, her emerald skin gleaming faintly in the dim light. Her limp was barely noticeable now. You're not sleeping, she said softly. Neither are you, he replied. She smiled faintly, then sat on the edge of the cot. Too close. Her presence was overwhelming, the heat of her skin, the strange scent of spice and desert wind that clung to her. I feel your doubt, she whispered, but also your loneliness. Ewan stiffened. That's none of your business. Your heart is loud, she said simply. It calls to us. Before he could answer, the walls shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling panels, the shields flaring bright as a surge of wind slammed against them. The AI's voice cut through the noise. Shield integrity at 87%. Recommend minimal movement and conservation of resources. Naira's voice came from the corner, calm but sharp. The storm deepens. We must endure together. Together, the word carried weight. By the third day, Yuan's nerves were fraying. The sisters filled his outpost like an alien tide, moving with grace and purpose, speaking in low tones he couldn't understand. They brushed past him deliberately, their touches lingering. Their laughter echoed in his chest long after the sound faded. It wasn't just attraction, they were inside him now. Every flicker of emotion he tried to suppress, they mirrored, amplified, fed back into him. Desire, curiosity, fear. It all looped between them until he couldn't tell where his feelings ended and theirs began. When the shields finally stabilized and the storm began to wane, Yuan felt hollowed out, changed. He stood outside as the winds died, the desert reshaped into new dunes. Phantom grazed on scrub that had been uncovered by the storm, his scaled hide glinting in the soft morning light. Yuan stroked the beast's muzzle absently, his mind a storm of its own. What have I gotten myself into, boy? Phantom snorted, nudging him, as if sharing his unease. The outpost door creaked. Lika stepped into the dawn, her limp gone, her movements fluid once more. She wore fresh bandages, her silver-white hair braided neatly. Her eyes, though still wary, carried warmth. You gave me life, she said softly. That life is yours until the debt is paid. Yuan shook his head. I didn't save you for a debt, I just couldn't walk away. That is why it matters, she said simply. He opened his mouth to reply, then froze. The console inside blared, its red light flashing. The AI's voice was sharp, urgent. Unidentified life form detected, closing fast, estimated contact in 6 minutes. Yuan's blood ran cold. Not another storm. Naira appeared in the doorway, her hand on her weapon. No, this is worse. The horizon shimmered. Something moved out there, not human, not Verdani, too fast, too smooth. Phantom reared, neighing with fear. Lika's eyes widened, her voice a whisper of dread. Nexu. The horizon rippled. At first it looked like heat shimmer, a trick of the desert suns. But then the shimmer moved with purpose, slithering across dunes with unnatural speed. Yuan's breath caught. His instincts screamed. Phantom reared violently, hooves striking the sand, nostrils flaring. The beast's 3 eyes blinked out of sync in panic. Inside the outpost, the AI repeated coldly. Unidentified life form approaching. Estimated contact in 5 minutes. Yuan tightened his grip on his pulse rifle. His gut twisted in a way he had learned never to ignore. This was no raider, no worm, no storm. Explain, he snapped, glancing at Lika. Her face had gone pale beneath emerald skin. Nexu, she whispered again. Hunter of bonds, it comes for us. Naira stepped forward, eyes narrowing, hand resting on the curved blade at her hip. Then it has chosen poorly. Yuan stared at her. What the hell is a Nexu? A predator bred to track emotional connections, Naira said flatly. It feeds on them, devours them. Your compassion for Lika are linked to you, it shines like a beacon. So this thing hunts feelings? Yuan asked, incredulous. Yes, Naira replied, and it never misses its prey. The shimmer crested the final dune. Then it struck. The Nexu exploded into view, as if reality itself tore open. It was part feline, part reptile, and wholly nightmare. A body long and sinewy, rippling with translucent scales that changed color to match the sand. 6 limbs clawed into the dune with impossible speed. Its head was triangular, lined with needle teeth, and its eyes, 6 glowing orbs, fixed on Yuan with hunger. Bond-bearer, it hissed in flawless standard, its voice like knives scraping stone. Corruption of flesh, contamination of spirit. The sisters moved instantly, forming a circle around Yuan. Weapons hummed to life, energy bows charged, blades vibrated with lethal resonance. Their unity was terrifying, like dancers in a death ritual. Yuan raised his rifle, pulse steady despite the hammering in his chest. Guess we don't get to talk this one down. The Nexu crouched, muscles coiling. You are prey, all of you. It leapt. The world became violence. The Nexu hit the circle like a thunderbolt, claws raking sparks from the Verdani blades. Yuan fired, pulse rounds hammering into its shifting hide. The creature twisted midair, skin flickering from sand brown to emerald green, blending with the sisters. His shots went wide. Left flank, Lika shouted, her bow thrumming. A bolt of violet energy slammed into the Nexu's side, sending it skidding across the sand. It rose instantly, unhurt. Its skin rippled, its camouflage adapting faster than his eyes could track. Shields, Naira barked. Two sisters deployed wrist devices, violet barriers snapping into place just as the Nexu lunged again. Claws screeched against energy fields, the force rattling Yuan's teeth. Your fear tastes sweet, the creature hissed, pressing harder. Your desire sweeter still. Yuan gritted his teeth, shoving down the flood of adrenaline. If it hunted feelings, he couldn't let it drown in his. He steadied his breath, focus, calm. The Nexu faltered, its head tilting, confused. Naira's eyes flicked to him, realization sparked. He resists, she said sharply. Human, hold that focus, we will strike. Easier said than done, Yuan growled, his rifle spitting fire. The battle churned across the dunes. Sand exploded under claws and blasts. Phantom screamed from the stable, the alien horse thrashing in panic. The sisters fought with ruthless precision, blades flashing, bows firing, their movements a deadly dance of unity. Yuan moved with them, surprising himself. Every shift, every attack, he anticipated instinctively. It was as if their rhythm had bled into him, guiding his aim, his timing. He shouted warnings without knowing how he knew where the Nexu would strike. Behind you! Kira spun just in time, her blade slicing across the Nexu's flank. Green ichor sprayed the sand, sizzling as if acidic. The beast shrieked, camouflage faltering. But it was fast, too fast. It blurred, reappearing inside the circle, its jaws snapping inches from Yuan's throat. He fired point-blank, the blast searing its face. The Nexu staggered back, eyes blazing with fury. You defy extinction, it hissed. But you are already less than human, their bond infects you. Yuan spat blood from a split lip. Maybe it does, but it also makes me stronger. Naira surged forward with a cry, her blade plunging deep into the Nexu's shoulder. The beast howled, flinging her aside with bone-crushing force. She hit the sand hard but rolled back to her feet, defiant. The sisters pressed the attack, weaving around Yuan. Every strike seemed synchronized with his heartbeat. He fired when they moved when he reloaded, the bond knitting them into one. Finally, with a roar, the Nexu staggered, collapsing to its knees. Its chameleon hide flickered erratically, colors strobing. Naira stood over it, blade poised. Wait, Yuan barked. The sisters froze, shocked. Yuan stepped closer, rifle steady. We need it alive. The Nexu's 6 eyes burned into him, hatred raw. Foolish human, kill me or be hunted forever. Yuan's jaw tightened. You said it yourself, you're bred to track bonds, which means someone sent you, and I want to know who. Naira's blade trembled with restrained fury. It will not speak truth. Maybe not, Yuan said, but it has a brain and I've got tech to pull memories. The sisters exchanged wary glances. Finally, Naira lowered her blade a fraction. Yuan raised his wrist comm. AI activate stasis field. A hum vibrated through the air. A shimmering blue cage enveloped the Nexu, locking it in place. The creature strained, claws screeching against the barrier, but it held. Containment complete, the AI reported. Yuan exhaled, sweat dripping down his temples. His heart still hammered, but victory tasted sharp in his mouth. The sisters regrouped around him, their breathing heavy but controlled. You fought like one of us, Lika said softly, awe in her tone. Yuan shook his head. I just followed your lead. No, Naira corrected, her violet eyes burning. You led, we felt it, your instincts guided us. Before Yuan could reply, the AI blared again. Incoming transmission. Source, encrypted subspace frequency. Yuan frowned. That frequency, he recognized it. The one Foster, the Federation medic, had slipped him in secret. Answer, he commanded. The holographic screen flickered. A woman's face appeared, human, middle-aged, streaks of gray in her hair, eyes sharp with command. Administrator Barnes, she said briskly. I am Admiral Helena Jenkins, Earth Fleet retired. We don't have much time. Yuan's blood chilled. She knew his name, his station, his situation. The sisters tensed around him, weapons rising again. Jenkins continued, her voice urgent. You need to listen carefully. That Nexu was sent by a splinter group within Federation intelligence, extremists. They consider your bond with the Verdani contamination. They won't stop until you and they are erased. The signal crackled. Static bled through. Jenkins leaned forward, eyes fierce. You are no longer safe at Outpost Dune. You must leave, now. The hologram sputtered with static. Admiral Helena Jenkins' face leaned closer, her words sharp with urgency. You are no longer safe. The Nexu was only the beginning. Federation extremists have marked you, Barnes. You need to leave Outpost Dune before the next strike. The image flickered, distortion crawling across her features. There's a sanctuary world called Nova Haven. Humans and aliens who have formed bonds live there in secret. I can. The signal cut. Transmission lost, the AI reported blandly. Ewan exhaled slowly, rifle still in hand. His heart pounded not just from the battle, but from the weight of her words. Marked, extremists, contamination. He turned to Naira, who stood over the restrained Nexu, her expression unreadable. You hear that? We heard, she said coldly. Your people would see us dead. Not all my people, Ewan countered quickly. Jenkins risked contact, Foster too. Two voices among many, Naira snapped. Will you bet our lives on them? Ewan's jaw tightened. He had no answer. 2 days later, the storm had passed. The Nexu remained locked in stasis, its glowing eyes following Ewan with undying hatred. The sisters took shifts guarding it, though they didn't trust the cage. Neither did he. That morning, as Ewan recalibrated the shields, the AI spoke again. Incoming vessel, Federation Rescue Corps, ETA 20 minutes. Ewan's blood froze. No, he muttered, not now. The sisters reacted instantly, moving like a single organism. Naira's voice was sharp. If they see us. They'll assume you're raiders, Ewan finished grimly. And me, a collaborator, that's a firing squad. Lika limped forward, gripping his arm. Then hide us. Ewan's mind raced. The outpost had a maintenance shaft beneath storage, cramped, filthy, but shielded from sensors. It might work. Go, he ordered, moving to pry open the floor panels. Stay silent no matter what happens. One by one, the sisters descended into the narrow shaft, their bodies folding with surprising grace into the darkness. Lika lingered, her hand brushing his cheek. Be careful, she whispered. Ewan squeezed her hand, then closed the panel over them just as the console beeped. Vessel landing, stand by for inspection. The airlock hissed. 3 officers entered, uniforms crisp in blue and silver. Their leader, a stern-faced man with captain's insignia, stepped forward. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, this is Medical Officer Foster, Security Officer Butler. Routine wellness check, following storm-triggered beacon. Ewan saluted, forcing a steady voice. Administrator Barnes, Outpost Dune. The beacon tripped automatically, no emergency. Hayes' sharp eyes scanned the cramped quarters. 3 days alone in a storm, protocol requires full inspection. Ewan forced a smile. Of course, nothing to hide. But beneath his feet, 7 warriors crouched in silence, breaths held. Foster approached, med scanner humming as she swept it over his body. She was the same medic who had once hinted at the underground network, the confluence. Interesting, she murmured. Ewan's pulse spiked. Problem, Doc. Your readings, she said softly. Elevated endorphins, oxytocin levels off the chart, and her eyes flicked to his, meaningful. Trace Verdani markers. His throat went dry. Hayes frowned. Something wrong, Foster. She smiled quickly. Nothing serious. Stress chemicals, minor dehydration. He's fit. Hayes nodded curtly. Butler, sweep the outpost. The security officer moved methodically, scanning each compartment. Ewan's heart hammered as Butler neared the storage room. Beneath those panels, 7 pairs of violet eyes watched, weapons ready. Foster touched Ewan's arm discreetly, her voice low. You're not the only one, Barnes. Others like you exist, but be careful. Hayes won't hesitate if he suspects. The words hit him like a spark in the dark. Others, he wasn't alone. Butler returned. All clear, sir. Hayes eyed Ewan one last time, suspicion flickering, then turned to leave. Very well. Resume your duties, Administrator, but remember, our eyes are always on the frontier. The officers departed. The airlock hissed closed. The vessel's engines roared, fatting into the desert sky. Only then did Yuan sag against the wall, every muscle trembling with relief. The panel creaked open. One by one, the sisters emerged, silent and watchful. Lika rose last, her gaze fixed on Yuan. Your people almost found us. Almost, he said, but they didn't. Naira crossed her arms, expression hard. You risked everything. Risked, Yuan barked, heat rising in his chest. I saved you twice now. Her violet eyes flared. And what did it cost you, human? Your loyalty, your career, your own kind's trust. Yuan stepped forward, voice raw. You think I care about loyalty to a system that would send monsters like that? He jabbed a finger toward the stasis field, where the Nexus snarled silently. To murder me in my sleep. To erase you because you dared survive. The room went still. The sisters exchanged glances, silent words passing between them. Finally, Lika placed her hand on his chest again, soft but firm. You are changing, she said. The bond awakens something in you, can you not feel it? Yuan hesitated. Yes, he could feel it, the way he anticipated their movements in battle, the way he sensed danger before the alarms, the way his emotions flowed through them and back, magnified, sharpened, alive. He wasn't the same man who had found Lika bleeding in the sand. But was that good or terrifying? Before he could answer, the Nexus stirred in its cage, its eyes burning like coals. You feel it too, it hissed, voice echoing eerily through the stasis field. The bond, it twists you. You are no longer human. Soon you will be other, like them. Yuan stepped closer, rage and fear mixing in his chest. Maybe I am changing, but I'm becoming more, not less. The Nexu's lip curled in a grotesque smile. So you think, but the bond is hunger, and hunger consumes. The stasis field flickered, a spark crackling across its surface. Naira's eyes went wide. The field is failing. Yuan spun toward the console. Red alarms flared. Warning, containment breach imminent. The Nexu pressed its claws against the barrier, its grin stretching impossibly wide. Round 2, it hissed. The field shattered. The stasis field cracked like glass under pressure. Blue arcs of energy sputtered across the floor, fizzled and died. The Nexu stepped free. Its translucent hide shimmered from pale desert sand to deep emerald, mimicking the sisters as though mocking them. Its 6 eyes blazed, focusing on Yuan with raw hunger. Bond-bearer, it hissed, I will tear the infection from your flesh. Yuan raised his pulse rifle, but his gut already knew. It wouldn't be enough this time. Circle, Naira barked. The sisters moved instantly, surrounding the beast with blades and bows charged. The air vibrated with their energy, violet sparks lighting the dark room. The Nexu didn't flinch. 7 hearts tethered to 1, 1 heart tethered to 7, delicious. It lunged. The room became chaos. Claws flashed. Energy bolts cracked like thunder. Sand and dust burst into the air as the Nexu smashed through a storage wall, hurling crates aside like toys. Yuan fired, but his shots slid off its shifting hide. It was adapting, its scales hardening, reflecting the frequency of his weapon. Useless, the Nexu hissed, slamming a clawed fist into the floor where he had been standing a heartbeat before. He rolled, barely dodging. Damn thing's learning. We changed too, Naira shouted, her blade carving a line of green ichor across its flank. Yuan's vision blurred for a second, and then he saw. Not with his eyes, but with something else. The bond flared. A flash of instinct, not his, not theirs, but shared. He knew where the Nexu would strike, knew where Lika would dodge, knew the rhythm of their unity. Now, he roared. The sisters moved as one. They leapt, spun, struck, each attack aligned perfectly with his shouted commands. Their blades and arrows landed in unison, staggering the beast. The Nexu shrieked, its camouflage flickering wildly. What are you? It spat. Yuan stood tall, rifle smoking. Human, and more than that now. The battle raged into the stable. Phantom screamed, thrashing against his tether, scales flaring iridescent with panic. The Nexu turned, scenting the bond that linked man and beast as well. No, Yuan fired wildly, driving it back from Phantom's stall. But the Nexu laughed, a horrible rasp. So many ties, so many chains, I will feast on them all. It struck at Yuan with lightning speed. Too fast, he braced for death. And Naira blocked the blow, her blade sparking against its claws. She cried out as the force flung her across the room, crashing into the wall. Naira, several sisters shouted. Rage surged in Yuan's chest, hot and blinding. His vision tunneled. The bond pulsed like fire through his veins. Protect. He didn't think, he moved. The rifle burned in his grip, overloading as he poured raw will into each shot. He knew where to aim, knew when to fire, as if the sisters' instincts and his were no longer separate. Each blast landed at weak points, forcing the Nexu to stagger backward. Lika darted in, her blade finding the gap under its jaw. Green ichor sprayed the walls. The creature roared in pain, thrashing violently. Still it fought. Still it would not fall. The bond surged again, harder this time. Yuan gasped, knees buckling as visions slammed into him. Flashes of the sisters' minds. Their emotions, fury, fear, desire, loyalty, all flooding him at once. And beneath it, something deeper. A tether pulling them together, knitting their lives into a single cord. He saw through their eyes, felt their strikes, their breath, their heartbeat. They weren't 7 individuals anymore. They were one. And now so was he. Yuan, Lika's voice echoed in his skull, as clear as if she'd spoken aloud. Guide us. He rose, every nerve alive. He lifted his rifle, not just his, but theirs too. He stepped forward, not alone, but carried by their strength. Together, he said. They struck as one. 7 blades and 1 rifle, moving in perfect synchronicity. Every motion anticipated, every strike magnified. The Nexu howled as the onslaught drove it back, its camouflage sputtering uselessly against the combined precision. Finally, Yuan saw the opening. Now! Lika leapt, her blade plunging deep into the Nexu's chest. At the same moment, Yuan fired his final shot into its skull. The creature convulsed, shrieked, and collapsed, green ichor flooding the sand. Its hide dulled, camouflage broken, eyes dimming into lifeless black. Silence crashed down. Only the rasp of their breathing remained. The sisters lowered their weapons slowly. Dust settled in the ruin of the outpost. Phantom whined low, stamping nervously but unharmed. The Nexu lay broken, its grotesque body twisted in death. Yuan staggered, his rifle slipping from his hands. His knees gave way, but Lika caught him before he hit the floor. Her violet eyes burned into his. You felt it, she whispered. The synthesis, our bond made whole. He swallowed hard. We moved like one body. Because we are, Naira said, her voice hoarse but steady. She limped closer, green ichor drying across her blade. The bond is complete. You are not merely linked. You are part of us now. Yuan shook his head weakly. What does that even mean? Am I still human? Lika pressed her forehead to his, a Verdani gesture of intimacy. You are human and more. You are ours. Before Yuan could respond, the Nexu twitched. His blood froze. The creature's lifeless body spasmed. Its throat gurgled with ichor. Then its jaw opened, not in life, but in reflex. A hiss escaped, not a sound, but a transmission. From its mouth came a burst of static, carried on frequencies beyond hearing, visible only on the console. The AI beeped in alarm. Warning, encrypted signal detected. Transmission complete. Yuan's stomach dropped. Naira's eyes widened. It sent its masters our location. The console lit up with a new alert. Incoming fleet detected. Multiple Federation signatures. ETA 2 hours. The sisters tensed, blades lifting again. But this time their eyes weren't on the desert. They were on him. You must choose Yuan Barnes, Naira said, voice low and final. Hide us and become a traitor to your kind, or give us up and betray the bond that now defines you. The desert winds howled outside, whispering of the storm to come. Yuan's heart pounded in his chest. 2 hours, 2 paths, no escape. The outpost thrummed with warning alarms. Red light washed over the walls, painting the sisters' emerald skin in bloody hues. On the console, Federation ship signatures multiplied like a spreading infection. Dozens, then scores, enough to glass the desert 10 times over. ETA 1 hour 53 minutes, the AI reported blandly. The sisters drew together, their formation instinctive, protective. But their weapons were useless against a fleet. Even Naira's proud defiance faltered at the sight of so many enemy markers crawling across the screen. Yuan's chest tightened. He looked at them, 7 warriors who had fought and bled beside him, who had shared their strength, their thoughts, their very souls with him, and he knew. The bond was real. It pulsed inside him like another heartbeat. Naira's voice cut through the alarms, low and dangerous. Choose, human. Choose now. Do we fight beside you, or die because of you? Her words weren't threat, they were truth. Ewan closed his eyes. Memories surged. Alina's laughter, Phantom's loyalty, Lika's violet gaze the moment he lifted her from the sand. He thought of the Nexu's hiss, contamination of spirit. No, this wasn't contamination. This was connection. He opened his eyes, fire steady in his chest. We don't surrender, not to raiders, not to storms, and sure as hell not to extremists who think compassion is weakness. The sister's eyes glowed brighter, emotions surging through the bond. Lika pressed her hand over his heart. Then we are one in this choice. Preparation began instantly. They buried the Nexu's corpse in the dunes, disguising the ground. They stripped its neural core, a pulsing crystal organ that throbbed faintly with stored data, and plugged it into Ewan's console. The AI chirped. Data extraction in progress. Estimated time 40 minutes. If the Nexu carried mission records, proof of extremist orders, then perhaps they could turn the Federation's blade back against itself. But until the download finished, they were exposed. 40 minutes, Ewan muttered. Then we run. Naira's eyes narrowed. Run where? This desert holds nothing but sand and death. Ewan glanced at Phantom. The horse pawed the ground, restless, sensing the tension. We don't need to win the desert. We just need to reach their fleet intact, make them hear us. You would face them head-on? Lika asked, incredulous. Ewan nodded grimly. Yeah, with proof. The sky darkened before the suns had even set. Federation ships broke atmosphere like falling stars, their hulls glinting silver against crimson dusk. The desert trembled with the thunder of their descent. Phantom reared, scales flaring bright blue as if in defiance. Ewan mounted him, rifle slung across his back. His heart pounded, but the bond steadied him. The sisters moved with him, their weapons drawn, their violet eyes blazing. Together, he said. Together, they echoed. The Federation ship loomed ahead, a warbird of steel and fire. Soldiers disembarked in precise formation, weapons leveled. At their center stood Hayes, the stern commander from before. His jaw was set, his eyes like iron. Administrator Barnes, he barked, voice amplified. By authority of the Federation Council, you are under arrest for harboring Verdani raiders and engaging in treasonous collaboration. Ewan's hands tightened on Phantom's reins. He forced his voice to carry. Treason? You want to talk treason, Hayes? I've got evidence, right here, that your own intelligence faction sent monsters to murder me in my sleep. Evidence that they unleashed a Nexu bred to hunt and kill bond-bearers. The crowd stirred uneasily. Hayes' face remained a mask. Lies, Federation doctrine is clear, Verdani bonds corrupt, your infection will not spread. Funny thing, Ewan shot back. The Nexu's neural core says otherwise. He lifted the pulsing crystal, its glow eerie in the dark. Orders, mission logs, kill lists, all recorded. You want to bury this, you'll have to kill me first. Gasps rippled through the soldiers. Some shifted, uncertain. Hayes' control wavered. You're already compromised, Hayes snarled. Look at you, you stand with them. You've let them poison your blood, your mind. Poison? Ewan roared, his voice cutting across the desert wind. Call it what you want, but this bond makes us stronger. I see clearer. I fight better. I am better because I chose compassion over fear. The sisters stepped closer, forming a half-circle around him. Their unity radiated power, undeniable, visible even to human eyes. This isn't corruption, Ewan shouted. This is evolution. The standoff stretched taut. Soldiers shifted. Some raised weapons. Others hesitated, eyes flicking between Hayes' fury and Ewan's conviction. Then, without warning, a shot rang out. The ground exploded at Phantom's hooves. The alien horse screamed, bucking wildly. Hayes had fired first, eyes blazing with hate. Seize them, he ordered. The desert erupted in chaos. Federation soldiers surged forward, but the sisters moved like lightning. Blades met rifles, energy bolts ricocheted off violet shields. Phantom tore through the sand, hooves crushing weapons underfoot. Ewan fought with everything in him, his rifle blazing, but more than that, he fought with the bond. His instincts guided the sisters, his shouts timed their strikes, their emotions fed his resolve. They were one, and the Federation line broke. Hayes himself charged, his weapon glowing hot. He fired point-blank at Lika. and Ewan moved without thinking. The blast hit his chest, searing pain ripping through him. He collapsed, breath torn from his lungs. Lika screamed, catching him as he fell. The bond flared, agony and fury surging into the sisters all at once. Their eyes blazed violet fire. Together they struck Hayes down, his weapon shattering, his body sprawling lifeless in the sand. Silence fell. The soldiers froze. Their commander lay dead, and before them stood Ewan and the Verdani, bound together, glowing with shared power. No one moved, no one dared. Finally, a young soldier lowered his weapon, then another, then half the line. Confusion and awe rippled through them. Ewan struggled to breathe, blood wet on his lips. "The core," he gasped, holding it up weakly. "Show them the truth." Naira seized the crystal, raising it high. "The orders are here," she shouted. "Proof of treachery within your ranks, proof of a war built on lies." The soldiers murmured, their resolve shattering. The tide had turned. Hours later, under the cold stars, the battlefield was silent. The soldiers had stood down. Jenkins' encrypted frequency blared again, this time clean, her voice triumphant. "You did it, Barnes. The Corps' data is transmitting. Extremist operations exposed. The Council has no choice now. They'll have to acknowledge the truth." Ewan lay on a makeshift cot, his wounds bandaged by Lika's careful hands. He was weak but alive. The bond pulsed steady between them, stronger than ever. "So what happens now?" he asked hoarsely. Jenkins' voice softened. "Now, you and the sisters stand as proof that humanity and Verdani can be more than enemies. You'll serve as the first of a new corps. Ambassadors, guardians, symbols of what's possible when fear is cast aside." Ewan's chest ached, but a faint smile tugged at his lips. Not bad for a desert exile. Lika leaned closer, her forehead pressing gently to his. "Not exile," she whispered. "Dawn." He looked at her, then at the others. 7 warriors who had become his family, his strength, his bond. The suns rose over the desert, spilling fire across the dunes. Phantom stood tall, scales shimmering, a silent sentinel to their new beginning. And Ewan Barnes, once alone, once forgotten, knew the truth. He had given his last horse to a wounded alien girl. And in return, he had gained not just her sisters, but the future of 2 species.